Hey everybody, it's your man James, Mr. Glenn Treasures, back again here. Almost, almost wishing I wasn't. You probably noticed I don't have the usual get up and go in my greeting here, and well, I think it's because we all know what this is about. We've all heard the news that Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, conservative firebrand, the guy who's out there, in debates and trying to use reason and logic to get people to see the way, who was a man of faith, Christian, father, husband, been assassinated. And I just don't know what to say. He was 31 years old, only 31. And I don't know. It's funny. I've watched many of his videos. I've been because he was a kind of a fan of his work. I mean, I thought he's been doing some good work, going to colleges, talking to the youth, trying to get them to learn to think critically, to see more than one side, to not just believe what they're told by people in powers of authority and positions of power, and the way he was just callously cut down like that. I mean, the irony. I mean, we've all seen the video. I don't have to show it. I mean, first of all, I don't think most platforms would let me show it anyway because of how you know how very viscerally violent it is. But he was in the middle of a discussion about leftist violence when he was shot. I mean, the irony of that alone, and what was he killed for? For what? For having opinions some people don't like? For wanting to debate people with reason and logic? To open discussions? To preach his faith and his feelings on policies? You've seen me on this channel. I've talked a lot about, comics and things in the comic community and comic culture. And, it may seem a small thing to people. I'm sure a lot of people don't think it's very important. Probably isn't. But I always spoke on them because I thought it was connected to something larger. The the coarsening of the culture, the coarsening of the interactions we all have, and seeing what happened to Charlie Kirk. I mean, that could be me. So I'm sure there's people. He probably got tons of death threats. I'm sure. Many people who speak out about these topics, like me, even we've all gotten death threats. I have myself, not probably to his level. I'm probably not. Don't have as much worry as he probably did, but even I've gotten death threats, and that tells you something. Because people speak out and tell you what they believe and what they see is true. And for that, you must be extinguished. And even now, just it's in the wake of it, just all the people on the left who are celebrating his death on TikTok, on X, on Blue Sky, wherever, celebrating the murder of this man, whose only crime was to try to get people to talk and to think. It truly says something about us, I think, that that we don't seem to be taken very seriously. Charlie could have been my son. I'm old enough to have been his father. And I can't imagine what his family and friends are going through right now. And I'm angry. Angrier than I've been in a while. I mean, I've always been the crotchety guy. You guys know that. You know, the curmudgeon. That's me. But it's beyond that. I'm viscerally angry, and you know, I don't know what to do. I don't know what there is to do. I mean, you know, we all saw recently the video of the young Ukraine woman who was viciously murdered on the rails simply because she was white. You know, and you know, I think what's bothering more than anything else is the reason this happened to Charlie Kirk is because of people who have dehumanized him and those like him to a point that others now think it's okay. It's okay to do this. That woman was white. It's okay to murder her. Charlie Kirk was a fascist. It's okay to kill him. You know, and it's funny because of all the people on the right, there's some who are harsher, some a little less, a little rougher around the edges in their commentary and the way they approach it. Not Charlie. He was always willing to listen to people. He was always willing to talk. In fact, at many of his events, he would say, if you would disagree, come to the front of the line, because he wanted to talk to those who don't agree. He opened invitation to those who disagree. And what does that say about the other side? That that's someone they want to destroy. That that's someone they felt needed to die. I mean, you know, call them a fascist and a Nazi and, you know, worse. It's like, I don't know too many Nazis who want to have a debate. I don't know too many Nazis who want to talk things through. And like I said, you know, but it's awoken me to the fact of how deep this rot runs in our society. You know, I've talked about some of this in the comics realm. You know, and I even found something today in the wake of this happening. You know, the book Red Hood #1, the new one from DC Comics, came out today, and the writer of it, Gretchen Felker Martin, a transgender person, of course, because got to be representative, right? Well, they had something to say today, and you know, it's quite disgusting in my view, but I'm going to share this with you guys. Here's their first bit. They kept seeing people, you know, talking about Red Hood #1 for suicide, and for the life of me, I could not figure out why until I remembered it opened with a bunch of cops shooting themselves. I just don't really consider them people. Now that right there, to me, speaks right to the core of why Charlie Kirk is now dead, of why that young woman was so callously murdered on that light rail. These are the people who are radicalizing others, who are getting them to pop off and go crazy and do these things that we're seeing now. And this is how they feel about those they don't agree with. This is the very mentality that people like Charlie Kirk was trying to fight against. You know, Charlie Kirk never saw his opposition as less than people. He saw them as wrong. He may even have saw them as dangerous. But he didn't consider them not people. And yet this is something DC Comics has working for them, someone who feels this way. And then after Charlie was shot, they went even further. You see here, thoughts and prayers, you Nazi bitch. This is before we found out he was dead. And then, hope the bullet's okay after touching Charlie Kirk. I mean, the callousness, the open callousness of this. There's something deeply wrong with those on the left when this is their reaction to something like this. And I don't know, I just feel that, you know, we all need to be more mindful of things. You know, we try to tell each other that they're not really that bad or they're not really that dangerous, yet they are. I mean, there's no other way to put it, that a person like this, they want you dead. This human being DC has working for them wants you dead if you don't agree with them. You know, and like I said, I've spoken about stuff like this going on in the comic industry for years. I've shown you many tweets, many instances of comic creators and editors and people in the power positions in comics. You know, when Trump was almost assassinated last year, and you know, wishing for his death. You know, this is a rot that runs deep. You know, and I've talked about it many times, but like I said, Charlie Kirk, he walked into the lion's den. He came to them. He went to the schools and to the places where these types hang out to debate them, to talk, to use reason and logic. And it saddens me that we've lost this such an important voice, because you know he was trying to show us a better way. And now look at where we are. Look at where we are because of the people who were against people like Charlie Kirk. I think my problem is I feel there's no reconciliation with these types. There's no way we can ever go along to get along. There's no way we can find compromise or middle ground or common cause. You know, if you are anyone who's to the right of Mao, they think you should be eliminated. You are an obstacle that must be destroyed. That's how these people see us. That's how they see you. And, you know, I think about Charlie's children. I mean, they're both very small. They're never really going to know their dad. You know, it's not just Charlie's life who's been stolen in this, or even those of us who admired him, those who learned from him. His own children have been robbed of a father. You know, his wife has been robbed of a loving husband. And for what? What was Charlie's crime? Being white? Being conservative? Being Christian? Is this the kind of world we want to have, where a man can be extinguished called every dirty name in the book and then some, and then just obliterate it because you don't agree? You know, and I'll say this too, is you don't hate the mainstream media enough, because they came out in the wake of this and they're saying that this is Charlie's fault. It's his fault. He was murdered, that he was assassinated because he had views these leftards, these pundits on the screen don't agree with. He somehow deserved what he got, and that it's his fault this happened to him. You don't hate the mainstream media enough. As much as you may do, as much as I do, we don't hate them enough. There isn't enough hate, I think, in the world for them to be hated as much as they should be. And this is what they do. They don't talk about a man who was open to debating, a man who used words rather than fists, a man who was a Christian who reached across the aisle, a man who was a father and a husband, a son. None of that matters to them. They just see someone whom they didn't agree with, and they now are looking to cover their own asses from the blowback that they know is going to come of this. Because they all have his blood on their hands and they know it. I mean, my God, just last night, Van Jones on CNN called Charlie Kirk a race monger and a hate monger. Said that he should be ashamed because he was saying that the young Ukrainian woman who was killed for being white, and that we knew that, and we do because we've seen the video of the killer saying, "I got that white girl. I got that white girl." And rather than deal with the realities, Van Jones puts it off that Charlie Kirk is a monster for talking about it, for bringing it to light. And that's what I think is really the takeaway from this, is he wasn't killed because he was dangerous to people. He wasn't killed because he was a hate monger or a race monger. He was killed because he's the antidote to the ones who truly are. He was what they feared because they knew that he saw through their lies and their gaslighting and their narratives. Charlie Kirk wasn't killed because he's a hate monger. He was murdered, assassinated, because he was effective. He was a young man who could reach the youth and get them to see reason. And that is what the types like Van Jones and, leftist politicians like AOC, this is what they fear. They fear people like that, who will blow up their narratives, who will turn people away from the indoctrination that the left so pushes so hard. And Charlie Kirk was effective at that. He helped to get President Trump reelected. He's gotten people to change their mind on things that they used to believe. And that made him dangerous to them, to the establishment, to the mainstream, to the globalists, to all the people who hate America, who hate its history, its customs, its traditions, its people. Those like Gretchen Felker Martin, who see you as less than human. And we need to take note of this. Now, I'm sure the last thing Charlie would want is for us to return the favor, as it were, to get as violent as those that were violent to him. And I also would say to not do that. As angry as we are, as rightfully furious with righteous retribution that we can't go that route. Because then we will become the monster that these types say we are. And we can't give them that. Charlie would not want us to do that. So I would ask that if you want to honor Charlie, stand up for what's right. Be loud. Say what you mean. Say what you believe is true. And never shy away from it. He didn't. Even knowing that maybe something like this could happen, he still spoke the truth. He still spoke what he believed. And that's ultimately what I think this comes down to, is they did this hoping to silence not just him, but all of us, to make us fear, to make us scared, to make us just sit down and be quiet. But that's not what we should do. We need to get louder. We need to get bolder. Charlie Kirk, the man, is gone. But the message and the mission that he had still goes on. And now he is a martyr. And you can't kill a martyr. I just saw a few moments ago that this tweet from FBI Director Kash Patel: the subject for the horrific shooting today that took the life of Charlie Kirk is now in custody. Thank you to the local and state authorities in Utah for your participation with the FBI. We will provide updates when available. So at least the killer is off the streets. But this isn't the end, folks. This isn't where it stops. It can't be. Because there are many more like this scumbag that has just now been taken by authorities. You see all the people on TikTok and Twitter and Blue Sky laughing and praising the fact that he's dead. Take note of those people. Remember their faces, remember their names if you can. And make sure to let them, always remind them, so that the next time a tragedy happens to them, you can point to this and say, what did you think when it was the other side? What did you think when it was one you disagreed with? You know, this dehumanizing polarization that we find ourselves in today is not going to go away just by ignoring it, or hoping it goes away, or wishing it, or just silencing ourselves so that we don't offend. No. It only goes away when we speak out. When we speak out in logic and reason, like Charlie Kirk always did. That is what we need. That is what we must do. And I think, if anything, that's what Charlie would want. So I hope for all of you who are watching this, who've been paying attention to what's happened, I hope you take that thought with you. And honor Charlie in the way you know he would have wanted, in the way that would matter most to him. We're all angry and upset right now, and that's understandable. But we will move past this. We will get to a better place. And hopefully on the other side we'll find something better, the kind of world Charlie was working to help make. Don't be afraid. Don't let these people cower you. Stand up. Be loud. State the truth. That's the ultimate legacy of Charlie Kirk. And it's one that I myself will continue to champion and to rally behind going forward. My thoughts and prayers go out to his family, to those closest to him. I can only imagine what they're going through right now. But for the rest of us, we need to honor Charlie in the way he would want. And that's what I intend to do. So I thank you for joining me for this. I don't know if it's helped any of you, maybe give you some solace, some sense of commiseration. But we will get through this. This isn't the end. It may be the end of one man, but not the end of what he stood for. Not unless we let that happen, and I, for one, will not. I'll be back soon with some more stuff. And until next time, as I always say, take care.